Welcome to the Waiting Warriors podcast. As loved ones of first responders and military personnel, we often face life situations and challenges that many others don't experience. And while each of us and our experiences are unique, together we can learn from one another and become stronger in this journey of life. Now let's step out of mediocrity. It's time to thrive. Hi, Waiting Warriors. This is Michelle Bowler, and welcome to another episode of the Waiting Warriors podcast. I am so excited for today's episode. We have Amy Uptgraft here with us, and I have been trying for months and months, ever since I found out what Amy is doing with military spouses, to get her on the show because it is amazing. So welcome to the show, Amy.
Oh, thank you so much, Michelle. It's so kind of you to say. I'm so excited to be here.
Good. So I'll give you listeners a background about what Amy is doing. She has written a play all about military spouses. And is it from the point of view? Is that like
So I am a military spouse. My husband has been in the Army over 20 years now. So we have been married that entire time. So 2 decades as a military spouse. And we have moved, I think 12 times in that 20 years. We have 4 kids. We have 2 15-year-old twin boys and 2 girls, 12 and 8. So the play was kind of born just out of my experiences as a military spouse. Obviously, it's a very rewarding life. I've loved so much of what has, been a part of the process, but it can also be hard. And so the play stems from that. I interviewed over 30 military spouses across generations. So I started in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Desert Storm, and the current war. And then my co-playwright and we kind of wove all those stories together. There's real testimonials from spouses throughout the show. And then there's 5 scenes that take place at either departures or homecomings of loved ones.
I get the chills every time. Every time I see anything on Facebook about it, or I've heard you talk about it. There was an interview you got, or was it just kind of the Veterans Project did an interview on Facebook? But anyways, it's a video of Amy talking about the play, and it just gives you chills, and I want to go see it so bad.
Oh, you're so sweet. Yeah, so we have a video on YouTube. So the play is produced by a nonprofit that I founded, and I have a team of people. The nonprofit is called the Veteran Spouse Project. And so under the umbrella of the Veteran Spouse Project, we produce the play, which is called I Will Wait. And then we also couple that with an expressive arts workshop for spouses titled Made for You. We have an expressive arts director on our team that spouses were seeing the play and were just being so moved by it that we wanted to create a space for them to be able to share their stories. So my partner, Wendy Caldwell, has developed just some beautiful curriculum. And it's a storytelling workshop for spouses to kind of share their own stories through different art modalities. And it's a really beautiful thing. So those 2 pieces make the Veteran Spouse Project.
Got it. So let's go back a little bit. You've had 20 years of experience as a military spouse. You're having 4 kids, one of them being twins, like, holy cow, Mom.
Yeah.
And your husband, how many times did he leave for a TDY or
so countless TDYs. He's TDY right now. So he's been gone a lot. He's done 5 deployments. He just got back from his 5th deployment in May of just this last year. So yeah, the play kind of stemmed out of his 4th deployment. I had our 4th baby during his 3rd deployment, and then he was home for a year and then left again for a year. And And I just had a really, really hard time. And I felt like, why is this still so hard?
Yeah.
And, I think sometimes you can look to your left and your right and you feel like, you don't want to, but you're comparing yourself and like, why does it seem so easy for them? Why is this so hard for me? Why is this still such a struggle? And so I kind of reached out and started to see a therapist, and in the process of that, she encouraged me to write in a journal. And I thought, I have a theater degree from Purdue University, and I spent a couple years living in New York City doing the whole starving actor thing. So I just decided that I was going to write a play because that's kind of, my love language and how I think. And so that's really where the play came from. And part of the development of the workshop was me feeling like I wanted to help create a space where spouses could use art to tell their stories and in some ways heal. Like I often say that writing the play for me, it was my expressive art. It helped heal me of a lot of the resentment and anger and sadness I felt during those years, just overwhelmed with raising tiny kids and moving all the time and starting over. And it helped me, be able to put my feelings pen to paper. And so that's kind of where the workshop piece of the Veteran Spouse Project was born.
Yeah. So that's the other thing, though, with what you mentioned that I love about I Will Wait is that it's not, what's the right word, fluffy?
It's definitely not fluffy.
Or just, I think, because I think when you see all the videos on YouTube and those darn commercials that make us cry every time of the homecomings or even just the going away, it's focused on those like 5 minutes of the overwhelming joy. And that's good. And those are they're like the most tender, beautiful moments that I think get us through everything else. But there are so many other emotions that we feel repeatedly, and not just when they're gone, but when they're here, but they're quote unquote here, the I'm coming home today at 5, but then I have to spend 3 hours working on even just like my ruck pack or whatever it is. Like I like that you talk about the resentment and the anger, and how the way you're talking about it makes me especially feel like it's okay that we feel that way.
It is okay. And I think the play is very raw. It's very honest. We wrote it with the idea that it would be produced in small, intimate spaces, to kind of force people to really see what a military family walks through. And I feel like it's important for the American public, in particular. We all know that less than 1% of the population serves. And I think all of us that are families in the military, we're incredibly proud of. I'm incredibly proud of my husband's service. I'm proud to be a military family. But I think it's important that the other 99+% understand the price of war. I think now, in particular, 18 years later, right, we're all kind of numb to it. And I think it's important to show them, the people you elect into office, the people that continue to send our military into harm's way, the ripple effect of that is huge. Obviously, we know it impacts the soldier, but it impacts the moms, the dads, the wives, the husbands, the children. And you should know that. And if that means you sit in a theater for 2 hours and see that in front of you, then I feel like that helps. That helps us bridge that gap between military and civilian communities. And I tried very hard to not sugarcoat anything. And I think as a military culture, right, like suck it up, buttercup, like we just are told to, right, like drive on, you just drive on. And
you're a soldier too,
right. And there's an element of that obviously I appreciate and I value. But I think it's also important for all of us to know that it's hard for everybody. And it's okay sometimes to say it's hard. And right now I can't stand the Army, or right now, I'm frustrated by this. And it's okay to say that. It's okay to show, you mentioned the homecoming clips, and I mean, everybody loves those, right?
Yeah.
Everybody.
If
They
you
just,
don't cry, like,
yeah, you boo-hoo all over yourself. But I feel like the play does a good job of showing you all the days and months leading up to that, and all the days and months after that. And there's a lot of hard work that goes in to keeping families together, to keeping marriages intact. And we talk at the Veteran Spouse Project about studies have shown that a spouse's emotional health is the cornerstone of a family. And we believe that. We believe that if a spouse is emotionally and mentally healthy, she is the glue that oftentimes holds that family together. She helps her spouse as they come home, or his spouse, as she comes home, re-engage with the family, reconnect to things. So it's important that the spouse is taking care of their own mental health.
right.
And that's what we try to do, through the storytelling workshops and just sharing stories in general.
Right. And I feel like lately I've seen more material put out by the military or government. I don't know if it's them or like third party contractors or whatever that try to address that. But for me, I found that like pamphlets only do so much.
Yeah.
And it's good that it's at least bringing it to our attention, because I do think as a community, sorry, losing my voice a little bit. But as a community, there is this sense of, I mean, we even like have the phrase like Army Wife Strong. And I
Right.
know when I first joined, Army Wife Strong meant something very different than what it means now, because now I'm realizing after only 6 years, but 6 years of realizing that being strong doesn't mean you aren't feeling the hard feelings and you aren't having the bad days. It's that you are finding the appropriate outlets and ways to handle those feelings instead of, and my way of handling it was shoving it down and trying to be more patriotic and just taking it. But like,
And I think that's common.
yeah,
I think you're definitely not alone in that. And I often tell younger military spouses, something I wish I had known earlier in this walk is I wish I had kind of just been more true to my authentic self. And I wish I had kind of held on to that earlier in my life. That yes, we can be supportive of our spouses and supportive of our military, and I am, but it doesn't have to take over my own life. There's a place for me to be who I am in the midst of all of that. And I think that's something military spouses often struggle with, is finding their own identity in the midst of all the moves and trying to sustain any type of career if that's something you want, and keeping all the kids afloat and making sure everyone's emotionally and physically healthy, and the doctors and the schools. And oh, by the way, now, right, you're juggling all the things for your spouse's job and his unit, and all the volunteering that you quote unquote don't have to do, but we all kind of know you do. And, right, so it's just all those things, like it's very easy to lose who you are in the midst of this culture. And so I want to think that the Veteran Spouse Project in some tiny way gives voice to that, and help spouses gain strength in knowing like you can be who you are, and still be a proud military spouse.
Yeah. So do you feel like there is a key or anything to making sure that you don't lose yourself and kind of lose that authentic part of yourself? Like, because at one point, like, there is something to be said about coming into the military and really letting it wrap its arm around you. But then, like, I agree with you, you need to still stay true to who you are and not feel like you have to be like every other military spouse, but also just keep the things that actually fill your bucket instead of what everybody else says should. So
Yes.
how have you been able to kind of make sure you are staying true to yourself?
So that's a great question. And I think I, over the years, have learned that, I'm a big proponent of military spouses. Like, you do have to put yourself out there. You should go to the events. You should do the things, because it can be a very lonely life if you don't find places within the community to connect. So I do think we absolutely need to make connections and, find our tribe and find our people. But that being said, I think for me, like, this is kind of a silly example, but I'll go to the events and I'll go to the things, but you know what? Now I'm going to go and I'm going to wear my Doc Marten boots, because that's what I like to wear. And that's who I am. And that's who I've been for, over 30 years. And I'm going to wear them. And you know what? I'm sure if someone looked at me and thought, well, that's not a typical Lieutenant Colonel's wife outfit. Okay, that's fine. But this is me. And so I'm still, you still show up. You show up, you do your part. If that's something you want to be a part of, but do it true to who you are, and if it's not something you're interested in doing, it's okay to say, hey, maybe next time, maybe the next thing. But that's not really my jam. And that's okay too. So I think it's really just, I usually say too, I feel like a lot of younger spouses talk to me a lot about working and having careers, because, that's obviously a hard thing to maintain when you're moving. We've moved 14 times in the last 20 years. How the heck do you maintain a career? And it's hard. We often say, I don't know that you can have a career per se. You can have a lot of jobs, and I've tried to manage, I've tried to work in almost every place we've lived in some capacity. Tried to maintain something in that respect that was outside the military and outside, that was just for me. That was just something I loved to do or was interested in. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Sometimes I just couldn't do anything else but, help keep the family afloat and be that constant. But I think, a positive to it that oftentimes young spouses don't think about or want to hear necessarily is, it also gives you the chance to kind of start over. And that can be a blessing too. You work a job for a few years and you think, oh, that was a good 2 years. Sure couldn't do that for 20, but it was a great 2 years. I met great people. I learned a lot. And then you could move on to the next place and do something totally different. And, and there's a absolute blessing in that as well. So in some ways, I think, it makes for a very colorful and interesting life, for sure. And as hard as it is sometimes, and as tired, I think, my girlfriends and I often talk about just tired. And I think, I don't mean that necessarily as like, I need to go take a nap. I mean it, although I would gladly take a nap right now. I think it's more like the weariness of new schools and new places, and plugging the kids into the new programs, and taking the cookies to the new neighbor. Right. And where do I find the hairdresser, and where do I find the church, and and I think, the first 7, 8, 9 times that was still like, okay. And now, after a while, you can kind of get to the point where you're like, I'm tired. I'm weary, of having to continue to do that. And so I feel like if you have those things that kind of still fill your cup, our expressive arts therapist runs a workshop series, and back in November, the theme of it was what fills your cup. And I loved that. If you can find those things that fill your cup, it kind of helps keep you afloat during those hard times, and the weary times.
Yeah. Okay, so back to I Will Wait for a Minute. Where is that being produced and being shown? I know you started in Alaska, right? That's when it Is that when it started, or was
Yeah,
that
so
to the
we did like a workshop premiere in Indiana, actually, back in 2015, kind of just a way to get it up and see if it had legs, see if it was any good. You know, the hard thing about writing a play is you really don't know what you have until you put it in the hands of actors and you put it in front of an audience.
Yeah.
It's very different than like a book or, you know, even a song that way. So we really wanted to, you know, put it up in front of people. And so we did that back in 2015 in Indiana, and we knew almost immediately that we had something really special.
Yeah.
But then, right, military life happens. My husband and I PCSed to Alaska, and I kind of thought, well, now what? Like, how is this ever going to happen or work?
Yeah.
And God, it ended up just coming together beautifully. And I met Wendy, the expressive arts therapist up there, and Leah Johnson, Angela Caruso, Christy Rigdon are the rest of our team. And we all met in our neighborhood in Alaska. And it was this beautiful coming together of incredibly smart, educated, gifted, talented military spouses who, you know, kind of all use their gifts that they hadn't been able to use and utilize in a long time, come together to produce I Will Wait and Made for You up there in Anchorage. And it was so well received. We were just really, really proud of it. And so now we are set to produce it in Georgia later this spring. We're looking to do a reading of it in Washington, D.C. this fall. And we're hoping for productions in Colorado, San Diego, and Tampa through the year 2021.
That is so awesome. Wait, where in Georgia?
So we are producing in May outside of Fort Benning, which is in Columbus, Georgia, about an hour south of Atlanta.
I'm going. Guys,
we would love to have you.
Benning's like 5 hours from where we are. We just got to Fort Campbell a few months ago.
Oh my gosh, yes, we have been at Fort Campbell. That's actually where I went to the therapist and wrote the play.
I need to find that therapist.
I know. She's a good one. Yeah, I mean, Fort Campbell is out. You absolutely need to come. Campbell is like less than, it's like 5 hours from us.
Yeah. Okay, guys, if you are within, I'd say even like 8 hours.
I love it. Yes, 8 hours. Come and see us.
Within 8 hours, we're going to meet up outside of Fort Benning for this in May. I'm going to have a tiny little baby, so you can, if that's like even more of a.
That's so incentive. I will snuggle that baby up.
Okay, so where you just listed all of these places, but is there like a website that people can go to?
There is. So our website is www.iwillwaitvsp.com. Okay. And you can also like our Facebook page, which is I Will Wait VSP. You can find us there, and we are really excited. Yes, we are. Tickets will go on sale here in the next few weeks, and the show will run here in Columbus on May 10 and 11.
Perfect. That's awesome.
Yes.
Okay, and I will link all of those places in the show notes for all the listeners to hear, so you'll be able to find it easy. I'm really excited that it's in Georgia.
Guys, I'm really going. That you're so close, Michelle.
I'm not just saying this, listeners. Like we will do a hangout dinner and then go see this play and cry, and
I love it. We'll get you spots in the workshop. We'll do all the things. Let us know you're coming. We would love to have you there.
Sweet. So, last and final question. What is your key to thriving that you want to share with your fellow waiting warriors?
My key to thriving?
Mm-hmm.
It is absolutely that you have to find your tribe. It makes all the difference. Maybe that's one person for you. Maybe that's 10. But you have to put yourself out there and find your people. And it's not easy to do. Sometimes you have a million little kids, right, clinging to your ankles, and you don't know where to start, and you don't want to drag them out to the mom's group, or you don't want to find a gym, or you don't, you don't feel like going to the coffee group. I mean, I have been there, but you have to go. And even if you go and don't have a great experience, you have to go again, because every place we've lived, I have found, in some places it's just been one person, in other places it's been a tribe of people. But people that have just enriched my life in ways that would never have happened if I had stayed in my small hometown in Indiana. Jamie and I often laugh that we could visit any of the 50 states and several countries all over the world and have somewhere to rest our head.
Yeah.
And what a gift that is. But you have to work at that, and you have to find your tribe. You have to invest. We have to invest in each other. And we have to hold each other up and be the emergency contact on our kids' school form when we don't know anyone else, and be all those things. And you'll never meet better people in all of your life.
Yeah. Well said. And I agree. Even if it is just one person in each place, your tribe builds as you move from place to place.
It does. It absolutely does. And it's funny now, 20 years in, how many, I've now lived around the corner from a woman who, I met 18 years ago in Fort Hood, Texas, so it's amazing. Amazing how that works.
Yeah. Oh, and I forgot to say this earlier, but I think it's awesome that you're a lieutenant colonel's wife who wears boots to events.
Well, I'm sure there's sometimes my husband's like, really, Amy, would it kill you to put on? But
it would kill you. It would.
Yeah, I dress appropriately when it's absolutely necessary. I don't wear them to the ball or anything, but this is who I am. I'm done pretending to be somebody else. And I am so proud to be Jamie Uptgraft's wife, but I'm also really proud to just be Amy Uptgraft. Yeah. And I'm going to wear my boots.
It just makes me so happy. I'm like just picturing you strutting around, which I really like because I'm a quirky person, and
my husband. There's a lot of us out there, Michelle. Yeah. Listen, a lot more than people want to think. And the military's full of them. So, we all just need to maybe let our freak flag fly a little bit more often and know that we're all in this together.
Yep. And then we can find each other.
That's right. Exactly right.
Well, thank you so much, Amy. I love hearing about this play. Guys, go read about it. Check out that video on YouTube. And then if you are within 8 hours of Georgia, I seriously want to hear that you guys are coming to come see the play.
Yes. Tell me you're coming from the podcast. I would love to just hug it out with y'all, and thank you for supporting it. We are really excited. VSP really has some great momentum right now, and we really are excited about what lies ahead for us. So we would love your support. Thank you so much.
So awesome. Well, thank you, Amy, again, and to all the Waiting Warriors out there, you guys have an amazing week. Hey everyone, I have a favor to ask. If you have enjoyed this podcast, can you leave a review and subscribe? I promise it just takes a second, and that will help more people find this podcast. Also, I'd love for you to join us in our Facebook group. Just go to facebook.com/thewaitingwarrior, click groups, and then The Waiting Warriors. Until next time, have an awesome day.